This is Heidi Heitkamp. I am the original founder of One Country Project, and I have scoured the countryside for amazing new Democratic leaders who share the idea that we should bring people together in one country. And guess who we found? Ashton Clemmons, who is now going to join the board and provide that advice. And she brings not only the sensibility of a purple state, North Carolina, that has elected Democrats and elected Republicans. She also brings a very valuable perspective about what we need to do in education. And adding her voice to our work is so excited. Welcome. Thanks so much, Ashton. We were talking about Ashton, Idaho, or Iowa.
I know.
Iowa, one of those I states. Yes. We were talking about Ashton, Iowa, and I think JD promised to get you a T-shirt,
yes,
didn't he?
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you. So I want to know a little bit about how you turned that school around, and how you did you engage with the parents? Did you have to raise more money for the school? Tell us about your experience in taking a school that was failing by measures. Not the kids was failing, but the education system was failing the kids, and turning it around. And tell us a little bit about why you think this is such an important discussion to have, addressing the concerns of rural America through the One Project.
Yes, so I'm Ashton Clemmons, a state representative from North Carolina. And
where in North Carolina?
Greensboro, Guilford County. And this is my first term in the legislature and have spent my life very passionate about our traditional public schools, and was a teacher, school principal, and a district assistant superintendent before I ran for office.
So I want you to give JD the eye that principals give every kid who comes in.
Yes, exactly.
I've seen that look before.
Yes, it's a popular look.
Yeah,
it comes in handy. Actually, a lot from being a school principal translates to the legislature.
Herding cats, getting people to play well with others.
Exactly. So I'm deeply passionate about our public schools and have spent my life in our schools where we weren't really doing what we needed to do for kids, and was able to serve as a principal of a turnaround school where we were the lowest school in North Carolina, and school of the year, my third year, we made dramatic growth. And so that really is my true love. And in North Carolina, we similarly had a major shift in 2010. We had Democratic leadership for most of the history before that. And we have really our Republican legislature, in my opinion, is full out assault in our public schools. And so that's how I ended up running and being in the legislature. But then am specifically excited to be here in North Carolina. Like many states, we have great urban centers and a great history of agriculture and farming. And our state is great because we have both of those. And unfortunately, too often we have a conversation where one is pitted against the other. And that's why I'm excited about the work that's happening here in One Country, because really our state is about lifting all of those boats. And until we are singling out the issues to rural people in our state and across our country, we're not going to address them in the ways that we know we need to. So I'm excited to be part of this.
Well, I think that when you look at kind of the progress that we've been able to make, and those of us who came together, and you guys signed on pretty early, and Ashton, you're just coming in now. But when Joe and Donnelly and I sat down and kind of envisioned this, it was born out of our experience, which is that the Democratic Party has left rural America behind. And you still hear it. You still hear in the dialogue that, well, we don't really need to worry about those people. We're just going to speak to our base. And if we get high base turnout, we're not going to lose. We're going to win. And it was interesting because in your recent special election in North Carolina, again, when you look at those numbers, it's, they turned out record numbers in the suburbs and the urban area, but yet still failed to get the majority because they didn't do better, in fact, did worse in rural America, in that rural county. And so, our desire is is to not just win elections, but to unite this country and quit looking for divisions. And so I'm curious, as you watched that congressional race, what advice would you give to anyone who's in that spot with maybe a plus 12 Republican district that needs to address rural concerns in a state like North Carolina? What would you tell them to focus on?
I think that rural voters are working hard to make sure that their families are taken care of. And they want politicians, candidates who are going to their communities and hearing what that means for them and putting their needs and interests forward ahead of any standard answer that either Democrat or Republican Party is going to talk about. And so I think many of our congressional districts in North Carolina, we have 11, there's an urban part, but they also have rural voters. And we're not going to win those until we are certainly turning out votes in our urban centers, but also turning out votes in all of the rural parts of those districts.
Didn't you recently have a redistricting challenge?
Well, yes.
So
our state.
So tell us about that.
Well, our state legislative maps had to be redrawn this year. They were determined unconstitutionally partisan gerrymandered. They had already been racially gerrymandered unconstitutionally, so they've already been redrawn once. So we had a new set of redraws. That happened in September, and the plaintiffs filed a challenge to not accept the new maps. We voted unanimously against them. The Democrats did in the House. We feel like it still continues with the problems of our past. But in the meantime, because the precedent has now been set against our state constitution, the congressional maps have been challenged to that same Superior Court panel that just made our legislative state maps. And so we're waiting to see. We're supposed to have filing in December, which is the earliest we've ever had it, and the court order, when they originally made the decision, they retained the right to change primary dates, to change filing dates, because that's been a constant excuse. We don't have time before the primary or filing. And so they said, we'll change those if we have to. So it will be an interesting time in North Carolina. Hopefully, at both the state legislative level and at the U.S. congressional level, we will have more fair districts. I think that's what's right.
Anyone who doesn't think this matters, I'd introduce you to the state of Pennsylvania.
I think we were part of the Federal School Improvement Grant, which was an Obama effort to turn around chronically failing schools that have consistently failed students as far as educational outcomes. And so we did have some extra financial resources. But I think most of what actually helped it succeed was, first, we had a deep commitment that there would be no excuses. So 100% of the kids live in poverty. More than half spoke languages other than English at home. And when I went there, I said, those are all realities, and they may be challenges, but those children, every one of those children, deserves the same opportunity for success as Letty Clemmons, my daughter. And we are going to make that reality. And so there will be no excuses here. You can say something's a challenge, and what do we need to address that challenge? I'm not going to pretend there are not challenges, but we will never use them as an excuse for the outcomes of our children. So that was first. Second, we really made the school a community center. And when we started, we canvassed. So it's funny that I ended up spending a lot of time canvassing running for office later on, but we canvassed our school neighborhoods in groups of 3 and 4 with a translator, staff members, to meet every single one of our school families before the year started. And we introduced ourselves. This is when open houses. And my mindset, which is actually not all that different now that I say it to my political mindset, but my mindset then was, we are going to go to families 100% of the time until they start feeling confident and comfortable enough to come to us. And so that's really what we did. And over time, we saw the dramatic increase in parents and families believing that we had their kids' best interests at heart and knowing that we were going to not stop until we got to where we needed.
So changing a community norm in terms of expectations, making sure that parents knew that they were expected to come and that you're going to make that situation comfortable for them and that they could be part of improving the quality of education in their community.
I think what we tried to convey was that we were problem solvers with the families. And I think many of those families, for lots of different reasons, hadn't had great experiences with education. And so helping create an environment where we're all on a team, nobody's more important than another to get outcomes for our kids. And that looks different for different families.
So what interested you in One Country Project? I mean, you're kind of up and coming, new legislator, but also a great, not just education leader, but political leader in your state. And we're going to see you on the statewide ballot and maybe even in the United States Senate someday. So I'm always curious about about our project, the One Country Project. What was it about our project that led you to want to be part of it?
I think I went into the legislature really believing that we have got to figure out vehicles that can rise above the divides that are rampant throughout our cities, counties, states, and country. One of those huge divides in North Carolina is the rural-urban divide. It's huge, and it pervades so many conversations and so many bills that are passed that are not in the best interest of the future of our state because we're operating from these two camps. And so what interested me about One Country is it's a challenge to a divide. That's not what's helping us move forward. And it's trying to create a voice that brings people together that is, I think we need well more of in politics. And, you know, your voice in particular, as being a woman leader and someone who had to carefully figure out how do you represent the best interests of people of your state in a political world that's less and less supportive of people like you that had to represent a different population. I'm excited about, and I want to be part of how do we get back to a place where politics can be about collaboration and debate and compromise. And I think that part of doing that is healing our divides, and this is a big one.
Terrific. Why are you a Democrat?
So I'll tell a quick story. I will summarize it quickly because I know it's a podcast and I'll have forever. But I was teaching one day, and I had a bunch of kids around me, and a group of teachers was watching me teach. I was modeling for them, and I had fifth graders who had to miss PE to be with me for this modeling. So you can imagine how excited they were to be with me. So I'm modeling this lesson, and 3 of the 5 kids kind of come around. I said, listen, I'm going to do this as quickly as possible because I know you need to get to PE. Well, then the other 4th one kind of came around, but there was this little boy, Jesse, who for lots of reasons did not want to be at school, was angry, didn't believe in himself. And long story short, I go on with the lesson. I get up from my where I'm sitting. I walk around. I bend beside Jesse's ear, and I say, Jesse, I know you want to go to PE, but I also know you're smart, and you can't miss out on this learning. So do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it later? He kept his arms furled. I came back. About 5 minutes later, I went back, and I said, Jesse, I know you can do this. I turned it to a page. I said, look, this tiger's interesting. Can you give me an inference about him? So Jesse kind of grumbled, and he said, his teeth are clenched. I said, well, what's your inference? And he said that he's aggressive. Those are the moments we live for, right? And I'm a Democrat because we can either sit across the table and judge Jesse, or we can get up, walk around, and figure out how to give people chances at their life. And the Democratic Party stands for getting up and walking around the table. And I could not be more proud to be a Democrat.
Oh, my goodness. I'm kind of starting to tear up here. That's an amazing story. And it's exactly, what people ask me. So what's the difference between Democrats and Republicans? I say Democrats have always believed that when we invest in people, we invest in human beings, we give everybody a chance, they will reward us with incredible opportunities, and they will rise to the occasion. And so I think I don't have as wonderful of a story as what you have, but I've always known that, when you invest in people, when you give people a chance, when you give them the tools and give them a chance, and that means an investment. And I think a lot of people say, well, pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And I want to say, really? What does that mean? I mean, it means nothing to me. It means that we're all in this together, and that success of your Jessie is the success of this country. And it's an amazing story, and you must be an amazing teacher. So it's too bad. It's too bad they put you. That's what they always do with amazing teachers. They put them in administration.
Sure.
So what's the goal for you eventually?
I don't know, because if you had told me 3 years ago I'd be a state representative, I never would have believed that. In my heart, I'm a teacher and an educator. So I don't know. I think the path will lead where it goes, and we'll see. I will say it feels like such an incredible gift to learn so much about just how people operate and how do we influence it to give people chances to make their lives what they deserve them to be. So I have no idea.
So before we close, I'm sure everybody's curious. What about your family? Tell me about your family.
Yes, I have an incredibly wonderful husband, Brian, who works in construction, and I have 3 great kids, a daughter, Letty, who's 8, and twin 5-year-old boys.
You
Briggs
are busy.
and Beck. Yes, I am. I know. It will be interesting. They were 6 and the twins were 3 when I started running. So I'm actually friends with Kay Hagan's daughter.
Oh, well, you know how to pick your friends.
Carrie. And she's been helpful for me, because she's like, it's okay. The kids are going to be okay, because she grew up, with the mom doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I want to do this because I get this question all the time. I started when I was 28, before I was even married. And then both of my kids were raised during a time when I was heavily involved in politics, ran for governor. Nathan was 10 and Allie was 14. And people always say, what effect did it have on your family? And this is what I will tell you. If you asked either of my kids, who are now 33 and 29, what they would say is that they were always part of my work, that they were proud that I was trying to do the things that I was trying to do, and that, albeit I wasn't there for every swim meet or every soccer meet, but they knew that you were doing something important. And, I think public service is that. And when we model public service to our kids, they believe the value. And so I just think that for all the young women out there, when they say, can you have it all? Well, if you mean, can you do these tough jobs and make every basketball game? The answer is really no, you can't. But you can make your kids proud and set an example of public service, and that's really what you're doing.
And I would tell all of them to do it, and to call you and me, right? Like, find other women who have done it to coach you up as we go.
But I also would tell them that you just heard exactly why someone ran for office in a compelling way that tells you who you are, Ashton, who tells you what your values are and why you've taken this step. And so I would say lead with your passion and know exactly what that is. It's been great getting to know you today. It's the first time we've been able to meet, and I know you are going to be an incredible addition to this effort, and you are going to be an incredible leader for rural America and for Democrats in Southern America who are coming back and really using their voice to make conditions better for all the Jessies in the world.
Well, thank you
so much.
Yeah.